That morning, the air in the CEO's office was thick with a heavy, chilling silence. On his massive mahogany desk, a stack of papers sat like a death sentence. This wasn't just paper. It was a restructuring plan. A plan to cut 42% of the company's workforce. Hundreds of jobs, hundreds of lives, hundreds of families were about to be turned upside down. He knew it was the coldest, most ruthless business decision he had ever had to make. The firing orders were printed, bound, and waiting. All they needed was his signature. He reached for his expensive fountain pen, the nib hovering just above the signature line. But then something caught his eye. A simple, hand-addressed envelope tucked neatly beside the ominous stack of papers. It looked out of place in this sterile environment of corporate power. He hesitated. His logical mind screamed at him to ignore it, to sign the papers and get this dreadful task over with. But a small, persistent whisper from somewhere deep inside urged him, "Read it first." He didn't know why, but he listened. He set the pen down and picked up the envelope. He slid his finger under the flap and pulled out a single folded sheet of lined paper. The handwriting was neat, but unpracticed. He unfolded it and began to read. The very first line made his breath catch in his throat. It read, "Sir, I know you don't remember me." He paused, the words echoing in the silent room. The letter continued, "People like me are easy to ignore." His hands, which had been so steady just moments before, began to feel heavy, almost frozen. He couldn't look away. He kept reading, line after line. The letter was from the night janitor. A man whose face he might have passed 1,000 times in the hallway but had never truly seen. The janitor wasn't writing to complain or to beg for his own job. He was writing about the people. He wrote about the young engineer he saw working late every night, fueled by cold coffee and a dream to innovate. He described the quiet determination of the single mother in accounting, who always had a picture of her kids on her desk, her reason for pushing through the immense pressure. The janitor wrote about the small acts of kindness he witnessed after the executives had all gone home. The shared snacks, the words of encouragement whispered between cubicles, the genuine camaraderie that blossomed under the fluorescent lights of the late-night shift. He painted a vivid picture of the company's soul, a soul the CEO hadn't seen or felt in years. He had been so focused on spreadsheets, on profit margins, on shareholder value, that he had completely lost touch with the very humanity that powered his empire. By the time the CEO reached the fourth paragraph, he unconsciously pushed the stack of firing orders to the far side of his desk. The janitor's words were a mirror, reflecting a version of his company and himself that he barely recognized. He wasn't just reading a letter. He was being reintroduced to his own people, through the eyes of the one person who saw them at their most vulnerable and their most resilient. The janitor wrote about the palpable fear that had been creeping through the halls, the hushed conversations about layoffs, the anxiety that hung in the air like a storm cloud. He didn't use corporate jargon. He used human words. Words like worry, hope, and family. As the CEO's eyes scanned the final sentence, his vision began to blur. A warmth spread through his chest, melting the ice that had encased his heart. The last line wasn't a plea or a demand. It was a simple, powerful observation. This company is not just a building, sir. It's a home for many, and a home needs its family to stay together. He slowly folded the letter, his hands now trembling slightly. One letter. One single, solitary letter from a man he had never bothered to notice. A man who was, by the CEO's own brutal calculus, just another number on a spreadsheet, another line item to be cut. That one letter had done what no board meeting, no financial report, no high-paid consultant ever could. It had reminded him of the why he had started this company in the first place. It wasn't just about building a business. It was about building something meaningful, something that supported people. In that moment, the restructuring plan felt not just cold, but wrong. Utterly and completely wrong. He looked at the firing orders, now pushed away, and saw them for what they were, a betrayal. A betrayal of the very people the janitor had so eloquently described. He picked up the entire stack of papers. The weight of them felt immense. He walked over to his office shredder and without a second thought fed the entire document into it. The machine whirred to life, its grinding sound a symphony of relief. Page by page, the plan to shatter hundreds of lives was turned into meaningless confetti. He stood there until the last page was gone. The silence that returned to the room was different now. It wasn't heavy or chilling. It was peaceful, clear. Later that day, the CEO called an emergency meeting. Not to announce layoffs, but to announce a new direction. A direction focused on investment in its people. He never mentioned the letter. He never pointed out the janitor. The janitor himself never knew the monumental impact his words had. He just kept cleaning the floors, observing the life of the company after dark, but a change had happened. The fear in the office slowly dissipated, replaced by a renewed sense of purpose and loyalty. And the CEO? He started staying late. Not to crunch numbers, but to walk the halls, to talk to the people working there, to listen to their stories. He made a point to learn everyone's name, especially the name of the quiet man who polished the floors, and in doing so, had polished the soul of the entire company. A single act of courage, a single voice from the shadows saved the jobs of hundreds, and reminded a powerful man that the greatest asset of any company will always be its people. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that matters.